we have some children from our Lakeside School who are going to lead us in the pledge this evening.
Just going to be another minute here.
Okay. We have some children from our Lakeside School who are going to lead us in the pledge. United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Am I the only one that's having a hard time?
Brendan,
keeping-
can you get any volume on that?
Brendan, we're not able to hear.
Is a popular favorite for
Can you hear
all the
now?
Lakeside Lions.
Yes, can you start over, please?
Sure.
Please stand for pledging allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated.
Thank you so much for having us here tonight. We are thrilled to be here tonight to share some of the amazing things that we've been doing at Lakeside. Lakeside Student Council has been working since the beginning of October to help the community and improve life at Lakeside.
Since September, the Student Council crew hosts lunch each Monday. Monday lunch, which is provided by Merrick's Chicken Carnival, is a popular favorite for all of the Lakeside Lions. Student Council crew members take turns going through the order forms, separating the cash from the checks, and preparing the funds for deposit. Our first service project of the year was an annual collection called Coats for Kids. We worked with Assemblyman Dave McDonough. We collected gently used coats and boots in all sizes. The items we collected were dispersed among Nassau County neighbors. Most of the items went to kids, but we realized that kids that don't have coats often have parents that don't have winter gear. Also, we were very proud to donate 6 huge bags of coats and 3 bags of boots.
Our crew hosted a fall sale of Lakeside Spiritwear. Beanies, sweatshirts, blankets, and long-sleeve tees were purchased by many. It's so exciting to see so many Lions sporting Lakeside Spiritwear. Lakeside was given an amazing opportunity to help children during the holiday season. Lakeside Student Council helped coordinate a Toys for Tots drive. 9 huge boxes for toys were collected for donation. We felt so good to know that they were able to make a holiday for so many worthy kids. It feels great to help others.
Hello. Our most recent service project is an ongoing one. We have set up a collection box in the Lakeside lobby. What are you collecting, you may ask? You're collecting used, clean mascara wands. The wands are used to help care for wild animals that are infested with nits and parasites. Wands for Wildlife does life-saving work. We are very proud that we were recently able to send them 80 mascara wands along with a check for $350 so they can continue their amazing work. The Student Council crew would like to thank the board for the opportunity to share the amazing things that we are doing at Lakeside. We wish you all a happy and healthy new year.
Thank you so much for that. And we certainly want to thank Student Council and everyone at Lakeside that contributed to all of those projects. You all make us exceptionally proud. So thank you for that. So we will get started with our business. I'd like to make a motion or ask for a motion to approve the minutes of the Board of Education from December 7th.
Motion.
Is there a second? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
A motion passes. Can I have a motion to approve the treasurer's report from November 2021?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Can I have a motion to approve the claims audit report of November 2021?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to approve statement of paid claims from December 2021?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Motion passes. I'd like to turn the meeting over to Mr. O'Byrne for the James Bond report.
Good evening and Happy New Year. This is my bond report for January the 11th, 2022. Fred Seba of BBS Architects has reached out to the superintendent to establish a date for a conversation regarding the flooding issues at Lakeside. Mount Olympus, the contractor renovating classroom casework, nurses' suites, and numerous bathrooms at Lakeside and Birch, has started installing the recently received doors. The door locations include both nurses' suites and bathroom doors. They will also be installing corridor smoke doors at Birch and Lakeside. The electrical contractor from Mount Olympus was scheduled to work on December the 29th during the holiday break, at which time he was going to turn off the power at Birch. However, the electricians came down with COVID and they had to cancel that date. The architect still has not received an updated response from Mount Olympus with notifications indicating punch list items when they were corrected and date when that work happened. The plumber has changed the toilet in the gender-neutral handicap bathroom located in administration. If you remember, that was a low toilet. A meeting scheduled with Belmore to go over their estimates to complete and correct the work performed by Mount Olympus was canceled last Friday due to the weather. It is rescheduled for tomorrow morning. The district's construction attorney has asked for a value of the uncompleted and unacceptable work. The district has sought guidance from the construction attorney as the project should have been completed in August and is still dragging on while not meeting our standards. And this completes my report for January.
Thank you very much, Mr. O'Byrne. Very much appreciated. Mr. Butler, we're going to come to you for an overview of the budget process.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kaplan. We're starting our budget process for 22-23 here in the business office. One of our first steps is to start pulling together the pieces for our tax levy limit calculation. Not all those pieces are in place just yet. We are waiting for the December CPI numbers to be released. That should be released tomorrow, but we do anticipate a 2% number going into that piece of the calculation. And as the calculation fills out with the additional information, some of the important pieces there include our estimated building aid, which we are waiting for the governor to release her estimate of school aid, which typically takes place in January. We have not seen it yet. So that piece then falls and flows through our tax levy limit calculation. So I anticipate by our next meeting in February, we will have a full levy calculation to present to you. On the state aid front, we are hopeful that we will see an increase in our foundation aid that will help us offset some additional costs that we're experiencing, especially in the health insurance lines. We saw an increase in our health insurance premiums for next year, so we are hopeful that some of that aid will offset it. And as we move forward through the process, I'll be reviewing each individual component of the budget. We'll look at revenues, we'll look at expenditures, follow a similar format to last year, And as we go through all those other different components, I'll open it up to questions. But as of right now, we're just lining up all the pieces here. I've had a couple of meetings now with the building principals. I'll round them out through the end of this week to discuss their building-based budgets. I'll certainly meet with Mr. O'Byrne as well to review the facility side. So all those pieces are starting to come into place, and I'll be able to present more in February.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Thank you. Okay, that brings us to good and welfare. Congratulations to Kate Isham, teaching assistant at Lakeside School, on the birth of her grandson, Henry Patrick. Congratulations to Holly Collins, typist clerk at Chatterton School, on the birth of her grandson, Landon Chase. Congratulations to Jennifer DeGangi, teacher at Chatterton School, on the birth of her daughter, Ariella Michelle DeGangi. And condolences, sincerest condolences to Melissa Edelman, teacher at Chatterton School, on the passing of her mother, Arlene Kaufman. I do want to just add two congratulations. Congratulations to myself on the graduation of Josh Kaplan from the University of Central Florida. But I want to do that especially to thank all of his teachers and everybody in the Merrick School District that contributed to Beginnings of a Bright Future, right? That's our slogan. And with every accomplishment, especially in school, there's not a day that goes by that we don't think about everything that Birch School and the Merrick School District did for him. And so sincerest thanks there. So that brings us to hearing of visitors on items in the superintendent's report. We do have lots of questions which we're going to get to. So Dr. Palma, I think I will turn it over to you for the superintendent's report. Is there anything that you want to highlight before we move the items?
Yeah, and I don't think any of the current hearing items were related to the superintendent's report. But yes, I do want to highlight a few things. First off, Brenda Gallagher is retiring from the business office. She has been a long-term senior account clerk. She's done many roles in that office under that title, and currently she does our accounts payable. So I wish Brenda well in her retirement. She'll be leaving us in mid-February. I also want to acknowledge that on the board agenda is appointing Jacqueline Greenblatt as lead teacher at Lakeside School. That's to Jacqueline, who's been a teacher with us for many years, and more recently a STEAM coach for us, will cover as lead teacher in that building while Meredith Kelly is preparing to have a baby relatively soon. So Jacqueline will be in that role for a little while. And lastly, I want to acknowledge that in this agenda, the board is being asked to reappoint Sal DeSena as Assistant Superintendent for Student Services and Technology. That represents a reorganization of some of our activities, and really, more importantly, an acknowledgement of the role that Sal does in this district and the things that I'm going to be expecting him to do as the time comes by. Those are the things I wanted to acknowledge in the agenda.
All right, thank you for that. Thank you. So can I have a motion to approve items A1 through 14, B1 and just B1, C1, 2, 3, 4, and D1, 2, and 3.
Motion.
Is there a
Motion.
second? All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. So we have received a number of questions, and we are going to do our best to go through all of them, providing responses. I will do my best to summarize and paraphrase and direct the question to the appropriate place. So we will start with a comment from Jacqueline Perez, thanking the school board, excuse me, for continuing to listen to science and keeping children safe. The next comment is from Julie Strachan-Haber, who is speaking to the recent surge in hospitalizations amongst children due to the Omicron variant and expresses support of current mask policies and asks the Merrick School District to follow the science set forth by the CDC. Thank you for that. Next question actually is from Ms. Bodnar in relation to the quarantine rules. Thank you for sharing the statement from Oceanside, speaking to switching to the 5-day quarantine. And there are several questions on this. So Dr. Palmer, can I ask you to please address this? And then when we get to following questions, I'll just acknowledge who they're from, but I'll indicate that you have responded.
Okay, so I think all these questions came earlier today before we released the first of 2 emails to families. The first basically summarized the information that came in a memo to us. Wow, it seems so long ago. It was yesterday evening from the Department of Health. The Department of Health does seem to like send memos at like 6 o'clock at night. So yesterday, the Department of Health followed up on some information they sent on the 4th. In between there, the CDC on the 6th, we introduced new guidance. So what we sent out today summarizes the new rules around quarantines and isolation. Basically, it shortens isolation for people who test positive to 5 days in school settings, meaning employees can come to work and students can attend. And they have to be asymptomatic before they return, or be fever-free for 24 hours and have resolving symptoms. And the details of this are in those memos. It also shortens quarantines for the unvaccinated or individuals who haven't completed their vaccination series to 5 days from 10. Similarly, to come back from out of a quarantine, you have to be completely asymptomatic. It clarified that for the vaccinated, you do not need a booster in order to, and then you, let me say it differently. Vaccinated individuals don't have to participate in a quarantine. There was some confusion that it seemed that you also needed to have a booster to qualify, but that it was clarified by the state. The CDC and the state both suggest that at day 5, if you're in a quarantine or if you're coming out of isolation, you complete a test. That is not required by us, but strongly suggested. I think everybody will feel better if some people have tested. We did, related to that, we did offer up home testing kits that were sent us by the state. Many parents collected those. We're going to be using some of that batch for staff members as well. And actually, just as this meeting was starting, I had received an email from BOCES that there's more tests on the way, not nearly as many as we got before, but hopefully that's an indicator that home test kits will be flowing. And we would suggest that people who are in quarantines or in isolation, and those who do not have to quarantine after a close contact because they are vaccinated, still consider testing at 5 days to keep us all safe. So that information and a follow-up email with some real precise details on when you may come out of quarantine or isolation with the changes went out to parents. The first one went out earlier in the day. The second one went out at 5 o'clock. So that batch of emails that we received were from prior to that information being out.
Okay, thank you for that. The next comment was from Dana Richardson, also speaking to the quarantine. So I think you have covered that. The next email is from Jackie Gable. The first question is speaking to the quarantining. So I think you have covered that. The second question is, if masks become a local decision, will Merrick stand up as promised? So right now, it is not a local decision. So if and when that happens, the board will revisit that. The third comment speaks to the canceling of events. And I just want to, and I believe the board is, you have the emails in front of you, I know. So I'm just saying whose I'm reading, so you could have that in front of you. But Dom, thank you for sending these to us earlier so that we did have a chance to review them. So question 3 is about canceling events such as the book fair. And really asking, why is the parent comedy fundraiser allowed to happen? How does that make sense?
So, each event is looked at it on its own. These are both PTA events. I believe the writer is actually a member of that PTA. So she probably has even more detail than I do about why a specific event was canceled.
Okay.
But while we're on that topic, let me just mention concerts, because while it's not mentioned here, it's a good one. We had all of our concerts scheduled for January. Birch postponed their concert because some of the staff members and kids were in quarantine or isolation, who would be in that concert. So it really wasn't going to work out. We'll look to a reschedule. Lakeside is looking at their concert. I believe they're working on the idea of doing a live stream concert. I have to talk to Mrs. Trenchy a little bit more. She was going to send something out very soon, or she may even sent it out tonight about the exact details of that. And Chatterton's is the last one in the series. I believe it's the last. Jill, do you remember? It's like the last week of.
I think it's the 31st.
Yeah, very towards the very end.
Yeah.
So we're going to hold off and see where we're at it then. The quarantining and isolation of kids and staff become a real problem with these. So we'll be kind of looking at that. And while that wasn't part of the question, I thought it was a good opportunity to talk about the concerts.
Thank you. Question number 4, I don't know if you could answer. The first part speaks to COVID funding that was received in North Merrick as compared to what we got. And the second part of the question is, what are COVID funds used for?
Sure. And there's going to be a second person who asked a very similar question. So I might be able to knock off both of them in the same shot. So the amount of funding received is to some degree tied to state aid ratios, which are based about many things: the number of kids, the wealth ratio of the community, poverty, ESL population, et cetera, et cetera. And that's how the federal government determined how much each school district was going to get. In terms of the use of those funds, to just move through it relatively quickly, last year, we added additional security for the year to help us cope with the organizational strategies necessary at the beginning of the first year back in COVID. We purchased desks. We are paying the salary of an additional cleaner during the day, salary and benefits of additional cleaner during the day at each school to help with the cleaning during the course of the day so that we can follow our COVID protocols in cleaning. And by the way, money is going to stretch over a number of years. One of the priorities of the various grants was to be fully capable of being remote for all students. So we spent money on additional laptops, iPads, earbuds, headsets, all of which the nice thing is they have a fairly good lifespan, so they'll be around with us for a decent number of years. We also have allocated in the grant money for an additional salary and benefits for additional school counselor. We did not implement that this year. That is something we'd be looking for to implement next school year. During the past summer and for the next 2 summers, we will be enhancing the summer learning. We had groups that were running for math and ELA. We enhanced the services for ENL students. and providing more SEL clubs. And then also in this money is the salary of our fourth nurse. We have a nurse per building and a fourth nurse for the 3 years. So that's basically where the money is going over the course of the grants.
Thank you. The last question from Ms. Gable refers to unused funds for field trips and school assemblies and events. Where is that money being relocated to? Are we using those funds for something else?
So at the end of every school year, like all unused funds, it returns to the fund balance based on the district savings account. So many of that funds return to that, or there were lots of expenses during the course of the year that were higher. So it wasn't a 1-for-1, but basically all the money doesn't just disappear. It goes into the school district savings account to reuse over time.
Okay, thank you. The next question is from Jenny Vasquez. It's about the CDC guidelines. So you have addressed that. Thank you. The next question is from Richard Soli Manzada. Will our district be leading the movement to finally unmask our children now that the county executive? So collectively, the board has decided to follow the advice of our school board attorney. Marianne, can you summarize what that advice is that was given to us?
Yes, thank you, Dr. Kaplan. So as everybody is aware, in the wake of County Executive Blakeman's issuance of the executive order, both the commissioner of the state education department and the New York State governor advised school districts that school districts are governed by the New York State Education Department and the state. They are the entities that have authority over school districts. The county executive does not have any authority to direct school districts or boards of education to take action. And if the board were to make a decision to not follow the mask mandate that is currently in place and follow what County Executive Blakeman issued earlier, they would be subject to removal by the State Education Department Commissioner, who has the power to do that on her own, as well as the loss of state aid to the district. And in Commissioner Rosa's communication to all school districts, she reiterated that last week after County Executive Blakeman issued the executive order.
Thank you for that. So this is a good point, just to acknowledge that the board recognizes that this continues to be an extraordinarily difficult time. And we want you to know that we hear the concerns, and we very much want also, for children to be happy coming to school, and we are doing the best that we possibly can. I want to go to the second question or comment. What is each board member's public position on advocating for children that are being mentally, socially, academically, emotionally damaged by continuing to mask them up? I think unilaterally, our position is to advocate, advocate, and advocate. And that's what we try and do every single day. So thank you for that. The next comment comes from Kimberly Fox. This also has to do with the quarantine days, so we've answered that. Thank you. The next comment is from Alyssa A. This has to do with masks still having to be worn despite Bruce Blakeman's proclamation. Expresses support for diversity and inclusion and CRT. As we've mentioned, CRT is not part of our curriculum, and diversity and inclusion has been for many years. There's a question about summer camp, and I'm going to assume that that's referring to summer recreation. Are there any plans to extend the day to 2:30, or later perhaps?
So first of all, we are planning to have summer camp again. In the next couple of weeks, we'll start the process of posting for the directors and posting for the staff, getting out the forms to parents. There had not been any previous consideration of longer hours. I will kind of have that discussion with the team to see if we think it's viable or not. And we'll go forward from there.
Okay, thank you. And then the last question is, why are we paying for school lunch? I was under the impression every district received money for free lunch.
So I think what the person who wrote the comment is referring to is the school districts that are part of the National School Lunch Program. So we do not have, the school district does not have a lunch program. The PTA runs a lunch program as a service to the community and as a fundraiser for PTA and PTA events. That's more or less how they fund most of the cultural arts offerings that they put out and field trips that they put out. So we don't participate in the National Lunch Program. My understanding is we never have. I've talked to some older members of the community who went to kindergarten here, 70 years ago, and we didn't have the program then, and there was never a program along the lines. So we do not collect any funds whatsoever. It's completely PTA operated.
Okay, thank you for that. I think the next email is actually a repeat from Jenny Vasquez regarding the quarantine guidelines. So I'm going to skip over that one as you've addressed that. The next email is from Miss Bodner expressing support for the masks at this point, and expressing that we hope the district continues to try to bring back whatever normalcy we can. It feels like at times we are saying no when perhaps there are alternatives. So thank you for that comment. Next comment is from Amber Mercado. Thank you for keeping schools open and working hard. In light of Bruce Blakeman's order, I'm curious as to the stance of the Board of Ed. So I think we have addressed that at this point. Support of making masks optional. Thank you. Okay, the next comment comes from Leah Farron. An email was submitted last month regarding capital improvement funds towards a new playground at Birch, wondering if it was discussed, looking for a status update on the playground at Birch.
So playgrounds at our schools have been an item that for like for the last few months, I've been coaching the board that we need to consider a plan to start replacing our playgrounds. The large playground at Birch and Lakeside are coming to end of life. The small playgrounds at Chatterton, Birch, and Lakeside are also coming towards end of life. So we need to consider a plan for that, and possibly including some of that work in this year's budget for work next year. So that's already been kind of broached with the board. And as we get into budget discussion, we'll be digging deeper into that.
Okay, thank you. Next question comes from Deanna Gorelick. When will children be unmasked in school? Of course, we don't have an exact answer to that. We definitely hope that we're moving in the right direction. So stay tuned. I wish we had more information. Next question comes from Angela Albanese. My question is, when will we, the parents, have say and be making masks optional? So I think we have addressed that as well. Next comment comes from Jessica Mack. I heard that the tests distributed to families last week do not have an approved date. I think you have sent out a message to parents. I know that you did on that. Do you want to just highlight what was in that message?
Yeah, so the message that went out on that one today, we got clarification last night. Again, second memo from the Department of Health with a quote about that I will try to reproduce that basically says the tests do have an expiration date at the end of the month of January, but the FDA is still looking at whether to extend that. But yeah, parents really should consider using those tests before the end of the month to feel like they're the most viable.
Okay, thank you. Next comment is from Eric Bashian, speaking to the county executive's order and asking whether the board will vote to provide parents with the option as to whether or not. And so we have addressed that already. The board at this time is following advice of counsel. The next email is a repeat, so I will skip that. The next email is from Ms. Casamano regarding privacy rights of children. We, in fact, my recollection is we did address that at last meeting. To summarize, what we discussed was that if children brought up vaccination status, that we asked teachers to gently move the conversation away from that. And of course, teachers have been instructed not to bring up that conversation on their own. This next one is from Leah Farron. Oh, this is about the capital improvement project. So I think we just addressed that also. I believe this is a repeat. And that is the last of the
Nancy.
questions and comments. Oh, I'm sorry, it is not the last of them. Yes?
Can you just, for the one for the capital improvements, I don't have that particular email. Can you just tell me what that was?
That was from Leah Farron. We received it 12/21 at 9:28 a.m.
Okay.
And there's also another one, December 8th. I believe it was, so you can, December 7th
Okay,
at
thank you.
5:32. I do have to just navigate to somewhere else because there are a few more comments, so just give me 1 second. This one is from Diane Seaman, I believe. Staff has received several emails with updates and changes. Would it be possible to resend one new updated email to staff? Dr. Palmer, do you want to address that?
Yeah, I will be connecting with Diane tomorrow. My suggestion is that we start to build a Q&A document for staff. And I think I'll ask her to start collecting the questions that her members have. And similarly, we'll talk to the other bargaining units and just put it together in a Q&A document to make it a lot easier.
Thank you. Then there are two more. One is from Jackie Barkin. And this speaks to COVID relief as well, I believe. And I think you addressed how that money is being spent. There's a specific question about how much of that aid is being spent for learning setbacks.
So all the money that was used to beef up the summer learning programs, I would consider to be the most specific part that would be for setbacks. And I kind of listed all the other reasons we use the money for. And I think there's another question embedded that about stipulations. Were there stipulations for the money? Yes, there were many stipulations that were developed by the federal government. I believe that they're available from the federal government or the state. We had to stay within those parameters. And I don't think the board deferred any of its authority in any way, shape, or form.
Okay, thank you. So that ends the questions and comments that we received. Thank you to everyone that submitted those. That brings us to report.
Dr. Kaplan, there was one in one of the semi-duplicated emails. Jessica Mack had a second part to her in one
Sorry.
of the versions of her email, which was about close contact. She believes that masked kids do not become close contacts. That's not the rule according to New York State Department of Health. Masking is a mitigation strategy, but it doesn't eliminate someone from being a close contact. The rules this year for children is that a close contact occurs with a positive individual. If that individual is a student, it's 3 feet. If it's an adult, it's 6 feet. That's the New York State Department of Health. guidance.
Thank you. Thank you for that. That brings us to reports of Belmore Merrick Central High School District Board members. I will turn it over to my colleague Gina.
Right there. Okay, so the report is that our meeting last week, which was last Wednesday, was postponed to tomorrow night, which will be in person. We have a quorum, so we can go into person. Just want to report that the district is working very hard to keep the school year as normal as possible with in-class instruction, sports, clubs, keeping in mind their mental health, their social health, their emotional health, all of that. So we're working diligently to keep that up. I'm proud to announce that we have 6 Regenerons. I think it's 6. I don't have the names in front of me because this is last week's update, but I'm getting the new update tomorrow. But I will report that as soon as we meet again. But we have 6 Regeneron scholars, which is amazing. Last year we had 5. This year we have 6. We're really, really very proud of that. They continue to work very hard at all of the schools in the sciences, which is so important. Also, our arts are doing really well. Everybody's doing what they're supposed to be doing up at the high school. Might be a little bit different visually, but everybody's working very hard to keep it as normal as possible. I know that tomorrow night we're going to be having a robotics demonstration of what they're doing in the robotics department. And I think, I'll report next month about whatever else happens at the meeting tomorrow night. But of course, if you have any questions or concerns about the high school, you can always call me or email me or Nancy Kaplan. Jill?
I have the names of the 6 students.
Oh, great. Can you say it? Thank you.
Michelle Brown, Brandon Lynn, Christopher Luisi, Christopher Pernito, who is also the valedictorian,
Wonderful.
Desiree Rigaud, and Shannon Sue.
It's amazing and really doing some outrageous work, amazing work. So,
And they not only were there 6 and 1 more than last year, but JFK had more than anybody else on Long Island.
That's
on Long
correct.
Island. Crazy. So we're very, very proud of that. And I'm sure in the months to come, there'll be they'll come to a board meeting and we'll get to meet them and hear about all of the things that they're working on. And the best part of that evening is, as board members, we read a little synopsis on what their work is all about. And half the time, the board members can't even pronounce the words. We're like, before the meeting, we're trying to figure out how to pronounce what they're even working on. So it's really wonderful work that they're doing. And I will keep you updated moving to the future about all of that. So that's about it. I'll let you know what happens tomorrow night.
Thank you. That brings us to legislation.
Just the New York State School Boards Association announced that the Assembly adjourned in 2021, and they just had record levels of education funding for most school districts. And the end of the legislative session was light on other issues. And that's about all there is to report on that.
Okay, thank you. That brings us to reports of board members.
Well, I have a question.
Oh, hang on one sec, G. Oh, you know what? Go ahead, Gina, and then Jill will come to you.
Do we have a meeting? It's just a general question, a conference on the 26th. Are we still doing that? Are we doing anything like that?
Yes.
Yes, okay. And I don't know if Pam's on here. If she is,
Yes.
if she can just forward me the information about the BOCES meeting that I have to attend this month.
I will.
Okay,
I'll send it to you, Gina.
Okay, thank you, thank you.
thank you, Pam. Jill,
Just wanted to say that Robbie Levine Foundation is donating 2 AEDs to Chatterton School to go near in the new areas that were built last year because they're too far away from where the other ones are.
thank
Are we
you.
having a run this year?
The plan is there will be a Robbie's run this year. If we can swing it, we'll do it. I'm holding my breath and hoping that this all goes away. And yes, but the plan is there will be a run.
And I'll
Somewhere.
volunteer to pick up the coffee at 5 a.m.
And I will ask for volunteers now for the corners of the run.
Perfect.
If you get
Well,
your
then we have
interest
to
in-
make it work. So
right, if you get your interest in early, you get the corner that you would like. Barry Cantor, I have you already at your corner, not to worry. That brings us to new business. Any new business?
I'll cover items as though they're new business, but when we talk about COVID, it's kind of both new and old business. So we talked extensively about the new parameters for quarantines and isolation that came out of the federal government and the state, reducing those. They also want to highlight that since we are going to be minimizing the time that students are out for those things, live streaming will fade away after this Friday. Kids will be out for a minimum amount of time. However, I really do want to emphasize, and this was in a memo to parents at 5 o'clock today, that when there are unusual cases that a student is going to be out for a lengthy period of time, the principal will work with the family to look at that case and provide additional supports in one way or another, whatever really is most appropriate for the situation. So live streaming had its benefit. It is disruptive to the classroom. It's a nice support for the kids at home, but it's really not that stronger support. So we're hoping that we can fade this out and this will get somewhat better. I want to mention some of the numbers we're dealing with first. So a number of people have pointed out to me that we stopped sending emails with the numbers. Frankly, the administrative team and the nurses in particular were horrendously overloaded with the processing part of this. And I have to especially give tribute to the principals at all 3 buildings and the nurses at all 3 buildings. They have worked tirelessly to get this information together. They are so darn good at this now that they actually don't take up every moment of the weekend for me and the evening. In the early days, we did it all together, and it was very time consuming for me too. They are wonderful. They are doing this. But let's wrap our head around some of the numbers. We had approximately 405 positive cases to date this year. 242 of those have been since December 20th. So most of it has just been in less than a month. That has been overwhelming. And positive cases are the tip of the iceberg in the work that they're doing to make sure everybody is in the right place to keep things safe and everybody gets educated. There is also the numerous close contacts that have to be assisted in quarantines and getting the appropriate services and sorted through. And one of the things that you may hear tomorrow, because that seems to be out there, is that the governor may be indicating that the state itself will be moving away from contact tracing. Just wrap your head around the fact that the whole New York State Department of Health and every county Department of Health throughout the state has decided that they can't handle the level of contact tracing and it's their primary job. And we have been doing that in our school district since the beginning. And credit to my colleagues in education throughout the state. They have been doing it too in every other school district. So I can't commend enough the administrators and the nurses for their activities in this. And just to throw some more numbers out, Birch had approximately 147 cases this year, Chatterton 113, and Lakeside 143. And again, that is only the positive cases. And for all those doubters out there, I fully acknowledge that the information you received may not be 100%. The information that we report to the New York State Department of Health that gets incorporated into the New York State COVID report card may not be 100%. We are doing the best we can. But they don't want to just stop with commending the building administrators and the nurses. The central office administrative team has been working on every imaginable angle of this continuously. And then let's get back to the buildings. The teachers, the support staff, every TA, aide, bus driver, custodian has done an amazing job. This has been a tremendous amount of work for everyone. So please, board members, community, please take the opportunity to thank these people. If you're a prayer, keep them in your prayers. Unfortunately, this pandemic is not over. We will continue to do our best to keep your children safe, to keep your children educated. And I'd also like to thank the community for their truly unmatched levels of support. Even when it comes to those annoying emails that I frequently get, or the administrators get, or the board members get, they often contain valuable information that helps us better the programs. So I just want to, and of course, thank the board for their support, because that has been endless. Now to switch to like more positive stuff. We may have talked about this at a former meeting, but I can't really remember for sure. Way back now, I believe it was before COVID, the Belmore Merrick, or the Merrick Belmore Little League, had proposed adding turf infields at Chatterton School to serve the greater Belmore and Merrick communities' Little League programs. They did all the fundraising for those programs. They were able to pull off getting one of the two fields done at Chatterton. They are planning on getting the second field done now with money they fundraised. At the beginning of this process, I had conversations with the leaders of that organization who were trying to get this off the ground. And we talked about the possibility of getting either state funds or county funds to help support the process. And in the end, no state funds were particularly available, but with the assistance of legislator Rhodes from the county, it was a long process, but we got $81,500 approved. So earlier today, I had a short conversation with Dominic Talapano of the Little League, and they're pulling together the items that they would like to use for that $81,500 towards the improvements of the various baseball items. That'll benefit not only the Merrick School District, but the Belmore and Merrick community. So that was just a wonderful, nice thing to have occur. Just wanted to drop that out too. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Dr. Palmer, I just want to, echo your comments in thanking the teachers, the teaching assistants, the bus drivers, the aides, our clerical team, every single person who works in our school buildings, no matter what they do, are giving it 1,000% every day. And so there's not enough gratitude. And also to echo, the thanks to the community. These are not easy times at all for any of us. And we know people are being pushed to the limits. And, we just, want to ask you to hang in there and, let's get through this together like we always try to do. So thank you to you, Dr. Palmer. We certainly know for you, it's 24/7, all day, every night, every second. And that doesn't go unnoticed. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr.
Yeah, any old business board members? All right, so if there is no other business, is there a motion to adjourn? Jill, I read your lips.
Motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, good night, everyone. Stay safe.
Everyone, be